guess the first thing, I want to jump into the movie, but before that, obviously, I'm sure you've been, well, for the past year, been answering questions about the pandemic and everything, but I feel like it's especially hard on theater actors, and you have been a theater actor for a really long time. And, it's kind of like a 9 to 5, except I imagine that you like your job more than other people.
Yeah.
Tell me, have you been chomping at the bit to get back on stage, or have you appreciated the time to, I don't know, reflect and count grains of sand on the beach?
It's Zach, right?
Yeah.
Zach, it's a good question. I just was on with Backstage. Backstage is obviously how I found my first auditions in my career and all that. And I was talking with them, and we were doing a live chat with a bunch of actors. It's been a complete and total shutdown for me since 2019 is the honest truth. So more than a year now. And any of us who do theater, but even the movie business is, as far as I can say, pretty much still totally shut down. So it's very easy to be terrified and, really in a dark place about it. I am not, because I really work hard to figure out ways to trick my brain to be grateful, and to try and understand like what I have from a creative standpoint to work on that might be in the future. But I can't overstate how uncomfortable it is for most people who have zero income. And, I know it's easy to get bleak, that's for sure. And that said, how do we fight through it? And we were talking about that just now in this, this call with a bunch of actors. And part of it is, time can be a great blessing to say, well, go out and figure out, read books, watch movies, do whatever we can do to feed ourselves, look for projects, write something. If you have never written something, just connect as much as you can, because part of it, I think, is the idea that we feel really lonely within it. Right. And that we're the only ones experiencing this, even though we know that everybody is. That's kind of the weird thing about being a human being. So I can't overstate how sure I am that everyone is in the same place. And, man, I guess it's just about empathy, right? It's really about being kind to ourselves, really, partly, not drinking too much.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been, having this job has been such a blessing, because I've been able to talk to people when, if I didn't have it, I pretty much wouldn't talk to anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No,
so,
it's weird. I normally don't really, it's not that I don't like press junkets. It's just they can be pretty exhausting and tiring. I've had the exact same experience. I'm like, yeah, I get to talk to some people today.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to ask you something that you haven't been already asked 50 times today, but we'll see how that goes.
It's all right.
So let's talk about this movie. You upset me greatly in that you are just very scary to watch, and just make me uncomfortable in a Hannibal Lecter kind of way. Just like, take it down. Next scene, please. I can't. It's too intense. In a very good way, I promise.
He's a terrifying dude, First of all, a real person who has that level of intelligence, manipulation. I mean, the joy of being an actor oftentimes is like, okay, you get to gnaw on the scenery when you play a bad guy, right? But it's rare that you're playing a bad guy who is a real person who did these things, and to try and understand why he did them, and to try and get in his skin, if you will. I had a very strange experience making this movie, because I shot the entire movie, my part of it, in 8 days. And I arrived in Zagreb, Croatia. I was super jet lagged for some reason, like more than I'd ever been. I don't know why. And I got off the plane. I went straight to work, like literally from the airport, to do the first scene. And I went home to the hotel, and I didn't sleep. I woke up the next day, or I got up, went to the set the next day, and I was a mess. I looked terrible. I felt terrible. And suddenly, about halfway through the second or third day of not sleeping and playing this character, I realized it was really working for me. Like my performance, I looked horrible. I felt horrible. You know how when you're exhausted and jet lagged and all that, and you just have a bad temper, it was really weirdly like improving my performance and my understanding of the character and my sort of like, that my eyes looked nuts. Like, it was just all helping weirdly. And so then I was like, oh, okay, well, you only got 8 days. You can handle this. And it just, I don't know. It was weirdly fun to be in the worst mood ever. And because normally you try and get out of it. And for me, I was like getting more into it.
Well, it kind of works for the character because he's like this charming, charismatic guy on the outside who, I imagine that being, there's very few characters that you can get away with just being evil, but I'll be damned, a Nazi is always one of them. And that takes a toll.
Yeah, he loved it, and I don't think many people who are evil, well, look, I don't think there are many evil people, but I think that in certain cases, the ones that are, they're trying to hide it. And I think Bjorn Skåne-Nielsen, this character, he really reveled in it. He reveled in messing with people's minds. He loved the joy of the manipulation. I think he was a true sociopath that way. And a really utterly fascinating character. Look, I mean, he did yoga, in prison in the 1940s. And like, that's pretty rare for a Westerner. I was much more an Eastern. I mean, he was studying Eastern philosophy. He was studying psychology. He was studying, all these strange, and it's weird. It's true. He helped bring popcorn to Denmark, like, he was just a bizarre dude. I just, the more I felt terrible, the more fun I had playing him, and the more I, kind of got into, like you said, being the Hannibal Lecter, but in this case, the real version of it.
Yeah. So you did it. You did your whole part in 8 days, which kind of shifts one of my questions. You look great, and you are shirtless in part of your and hairless, but that's a whole other thing. Are you a workout guy in general, or did you know that this was coming up, so you're like, all right, time to buckle down?
Well, yeah, I actually don't know that I agree. I look great. I think I look pretty terrible in the movie, but I also, look, I have done a lot of yoga in my life. Yoga has been a great tool for me, a great savior for me. And I was intrigued by the idea that this guy taught yoga in the prison when he was there for his, Nazi crimes. I was like, what a weird, a Nazi yogi. But I was able to talk to the director about, hey man, can we use some of this? Can we I have this weird thing I learned to do many years ago called a scorpion, which is a really very strange yoga posture where you're on your forearms, your entire body is sort of arched and backwards from, it's like a handstand, but it literally looks like a scorpion about to attack. And I was like, if we could play with that in the movie, that would be super interesting. And so all of those things I think were to try and feed the character and feed the story. And they're all based in truth. They're all based in what this guy really was doing and how he was able to mess with this kid's mind so badly and have him end up doing these heinous crimes.
Well, it works because you are magnetic in this movie. I was really, I was excited to watch it, and I was not disappointed.
Thanks, Zach.
And I've been a fan of yours for. Oh, sorry. Continue. I was
just gonna say thank you because part of it is like, look, this is a tiny little movie that we worked really hard on. That it's kind of been stuck in this weird netherworld of, is it streaming? Is it theatrical? What are we going to do with it? Is it an American? Excuse me. Is it an American movie? Is it an international movie? Why is it in English? There's all these weird kind of questions about it, and so that it's getting out there, and that that I think it deserves to get out there. I'm going to maybe get in trouble for saying this, but I saw The Little Things the other day, the Denzel Washington movie, and I thought it was one of the worst major movies I've ever seen in my life. And that movie got so much attention, and like there's so much power and money behind it, and this movie had nothing behind it, and we made it for no money, and I'm grateful it's going to maybe get out there a little bit, and I'm thankful for you to talking about it a little bit because I think it's worth seeing. That's for sure.
Well, honestly, that's my favorite part of this job is getting to talk to big famous people who are doing stuff that is not necessarily part of the studio system where they're constantly, shoving the next big thing down your throat. And kind of related to that, I want to ask you, it's kind of, I feel like I should make a book at some point, asking about, you're a big star, you've got fans all over the place. Is there a piece of work that you've done, at some point, whenever it was, that you feel didn't get the attention that it deserved at its time, that you kind of want to shout out for the Screen Rant reader?
Well, there's one in particular called The Mend, M-E-N-D. The Mend was a really tiny little movie. We made it for $100,000, the entire budget, everything. We shot it in a period of 10 days in these people's apartment, the director, writer, his apartment. And it's a movie that did get nominated for an Independent Spirit Award and a few things, but because it never had distribution, no one's ever heard of it. And it's just, it's in a wild, amazing, funny, weird, wonderful story. Sorry, hold on. I think are you there? Sorry, my phone. It's really, really good film. And everyone I know has seen it. It's like, that's a great film. But again, like you say, because look, it's made for $100,000. Nobody, in the world got behind it. There was no studio, there was no media, there was no nothing. So that one in particular, I really love. If people want a weird, interesting movie, that's a good one.
Awesome. Kind of on the other side of that spectrum, this was one of my favorite movies when I was a teenager. I've watched it like I don't even want to guess how many times I've seen Poseidon, which I just I was a huge Irwin Allen just as a kid. Those movies like The Towering Inferno still to this day is one of the scariest movies. Like I can't deal with it. And Poseidon was a favorite, but I heard that you broke your back on that movie.
I didn't break my back. What I broke was, and it sounds a lot less, I broke my thumb. And when I mean I broke my thumb, I literally the guy who did surgery on my thumb said it was the worst injury on a thumb he's ever seen. I basically tore my thumb off my hand. Oof. The only thing that was connected still was the skin. I ripped the muscles off. I ripped the bone off. I ripped everything off. And the way it happened was I was on a wall during one of the later sequences, and I was trying to climb up a wall upside down in the boat and all that. And what was called a water cannon, which were these huge, almost like sprinklers. They were just shooting mass chunks of water as it looked like the boat was falling apart. And one of them hit me. I was about 20, 30 feet up in the air on this wall, and it hit me. And my harness, for some reason, didn't hold, and I fell backwards, and I fell onto my thumb, and I literally just tore it off. And you can't see, but I've got these perfect surgical scars on both sides because they had to go in and they reconstructed it. We'll put it this way. For my thumb, I was asleep for 12 hours in surgery because that's how weird and hard the surgery was, the guy told me. So, yeah. But yeah, that was a wild movie to make, man. We all went through, there was something on that movie they called the Poseidon Crud because they flooded the Warner Brothers stages, and those were like 100-year-old stages. And so everyone was getting sick with this like weird flu that nobody could understand. So they called it the Poseidon Crud.
Well, yeah. I mean, from my point of view, it was worth it. I don't know if it was worth it for you. That sounds traumatizing. But
come on, I'm grateful to do it.
Okay, that's good to hear. Well, thank you so much. I've been such a big fan of yours for a really long time, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.